All right, UFC 283 this Saturday from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. UFC finally returns to Brazil for the first time since really the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020. Of course, that main event fight between Charles do Bronx Oliveira and Kevin Lee. And this time, the UFC returns with a light heavyweight championship fight. For the second straight pay-per-view, the light heavyweight title is on the line, and it is a vacant championship fight between Glover Teixeira and Sweet Dreams Jamal Hill. And in the co-main event, for the fourth time in the last 4 years, we've got Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno for the undisputed flyweight championship. And before we get into this 15-fight card, folks, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. So our first fight is a matchup here between Simon Oliveira taking on Daniel Marcos. For Oliveira, looking for his first win in the UFC, coming off that loss to Tony Gravely back in Anaheim of last year. It'll be 364 days since he fought Gravely when he does go fight Marcos. Gravely beats him by unanimous decision. It's a fight that he just gets dominated in terms of the wrestling side of things. Gravely just consistently pressuring him with the takedowns, 11 for 15 on those takedown attempts for Gravely in that fight, and 11 and a half minutes of control for Tony Gravely in that fight, win the win over Simon Oliveira. And, you know, we look at that fight for Oliveira, nothing much going on for him, but you know what Oliveira is good at? He is trying to go in there, he is trying to work his jiu-jitsu game, and really, Gravely just gave him no room to work in that fight. Now, I don't think that's going to be a problem in this fight, wrestling-wise, when he's taking on Daniel Marcos, because Marcos here, of course, the Peruvian-born fighter, comes in the UFC after a win in the Contender Series in September over Brandon Lewis. He beats Lewis by unanimous decision. It's a fight where Marcos is dominant with the striking, 86 significant strikes in that fight for Daniel Marcos, scoring a big knockdown as well in the third round, really securing that fight for Marcos, even though until that point, he was up 2 rounds to nothing. But Daniel Marcos, he's going to come in there. He is going to try to offer a lot through the striking side of things. I mean, I believe the former Sparta champion over there in Peru, I think. It was interesting, though, because he took 3 years off in between his last fight in the regionals, going into the UFC or going to the Contender Series. He wins that fight in the Contender, and now he's in the UFC. It's striker versus grappler in this fight. I mean, that's really the easiest way I could put it. You're going to see a lot of these fights here with guys who are, pretty young into their UFC careers. I mean, combined to one fight between these two coming into this one, of course, at 135 pounds. Of course, Oliveira being the grappler, Marcos being the striker, two smaller bantamweights, I would say, height-wise. Oliveira 5'4", Marcos 5'7". Again, it is solely dependent on if Simon Oliveira can get this fight on the ground. If Oliveira can get this one down, I do feel really good about him, fishing out a submission against Marcos, because Marcos' grappling game really is not the greatest, but I do like Daniel Marcos' defensive wrestling to the point where he can keep this fight standing. It's a close one for me, really, because I think it's solely dependent on if Oliveira can get this fight down to the ground. If Oliveira can get this fight down to the ground, I really like him to win the fight. If Marcos is able to keep it standing, I like Marcos to win by knockout. So it's really, one way or the other. You're going to take either a submission or a decision for Oliveira, or you're going to take the knockout from Daniel Marcos. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to take Simon Oliveira. I think Oliveira is able to win this one by decision. I think he's able to get this fight down to the ground, and just by, barely, I'm going to take Oliveira. Tapology, a lot of people like Daniel Marcos. The odds like Oliveira at minus 195 currently. Give me Oliveira here. I think he'll win by decision. They're trying to get Zara Fairn killed here. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is the easiest fight to break down the entire card. It just is. Josiane Nunes, Zara Fairn. You know what's going to happen here. I mean, Josiane Nunes is going to win this fight. Josiane Nunes is, one of... The UFC does not have many featherweights, and Josiane Nunes is one of them. And Zara Fairn's a fighter who has not won yet in the UFC. She's 0-2 compared to Nunes is 2-0. It is very rare you ever see this in UFC history where you see a fighter who's won their first 2 fights against a fighter who's lost their first 2 fights. And it's been, very wide contrast in results for both these fighters. Look at Josiane Nunes. Her first fight in the UFC, it's a big knockout finish, winning the first round of Bia Malecki. And after that, she beats Ramona Pascual by unanimous decision, where Ramona Pascual just kind of turned into a punching bag. Josiane Nunes knocked her down twice. It was just a dominant, striking performance for Nunes in that one. And she'll be taking on Zara Fairn, who is 0-2 and has taken on a lot tougher level of competition. But it was weird because Zara Fairn got signed to the UFC. She hadn't fought in 2 years. They bring her in to lose to Megan Anderson, but she really didn't beat anyone. She was 5-2. She lost to Sinead Kavanaugh. It was weird. I mean, Fairn's run so far in the UFC has been a loss to Megan Anderson in Australia, and then a loss to Felicia Spencer in Norfolk, Virginia, where she got beat by TKO on the ground. That's it. She was booked against Nunes back in early 2021, but she missed weight. Then she was booked against Jocelyn Edwards. She withdrew. And then she was booked against Aline Perez. She withdrew. So will Fairn even get to the scales on this fight? I don't know. I mean, she is an older women's featherweight. She's 36 years old, the French-born fighter in Zara Fairn. But this, everything just screams Josiane Nunes in this fight. Nunes has got way heavier hands. Nunes is the quicker fighter. We've seen Nunes go out there and produce results in her first 2 UFC fights. And there's no, obviously there's a reason she's at minus 330. And there's some locks in this card. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of, I think this is more of a lock than, I would say it's more of a lock than Jaitan Almeida, honestly. And Jaitan Almeida is a stud who's a minus 900 favorite. But, I mean, I really don't think Zara Fairn wins. Zara Fairn has not been good in her first 2 fights. Again, she got submitted by Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson is horrible on the ground. So if Josiane Nunes really has to go to it, if this fight is somehow any bit of competitive on the feet, Josiane Nunes can result to her wrestling and her grappling to win the fight down there, because that's how bad Zara Fairn is. Because Zara Fairn is a kickboxer. She is billed as a kickboxer going into this fight. Still, though, I don't see the pathway to victory for Fairn. Give me Josiane Nunes is going to be completely dominant. Nunes is going to land that big shot. She's going to put down Zara Fairn early in this fight. It's going to be a first round knockout. Again, they are actively trying to get Zara Fairn outside the UFC, and that's what they're doing by booking her against a 2-0 fighter. But given there's just not many UFC women's featherweights, anyways, Josiane Nunes is going to win this one. It will not be a competitive fight at all. Josiane Nunes going to make quick work of Zara Fairn to send her out the UFC. First round knockout win for Josiane Nunes. 2 veterans going at it. We've got Warlley Alves taking on Nicolas Dalby. And for Warlley Alves, haven't seen him since 2021. It was a year, I guess, to be noted for Warlley Alves. It was weird because he comes in that year, right? He's fighting Munir Lazzez early in 2021. He fights him in Abu Dhabi. It's a co-main event spot in the Chiesa Magni. Weird card on Wednesday, but still, it's a co-main event spot. You're thinking, all right, this is the fight to propel Munir Lazzez really into that, not the elite category, but as a really solid fighter in the UFC. They're going to try to promote, of course, coming from that region over there in Abu Dhabi. And Warlley Alves comes in there and stops the show. Body kicks, ends up folding. Munir Lazzez sits him down. Warlley Alves wins the fight. And we're like, okay, so is Alves back? Well, then they give him a UFC newcomer, Jeremiah Wells. Alves is a minus 240 favorite. You're thinking, okay, Wells is old coming to the UFC. This guy's 34 years old making his UFC debut, and nope. Wells knocks him stiff. In the second round, big right hook puts down Warlley Alves. And luckily for Alves, he was supposed to fight Jack Della Maddalena early in 2022 in Anaheim. Alves withdrew for his own good, thankfully, because Maddalena would have destroyed him. And now Alves is fighting Nicolas Dalby here on this card. Now, Warlley Alves, I would say, probably most noted now because of his, win over Colby Covington, I would say, back at UFC 194. He got him with the guillotine choke in the first round. And Alves' striking isn't horrible. He's got jiu-jitsu, of course, as you've seen in that Covington fight where he caught Colby in the guillotine choke. But he's going to be taking on Nicolas Dalby in this fight. And for Dalby, right, I mean, it's a win over Claudio Silva in his last fight. It's, not the most entertaining fight. It's what Silva kind of does in all of his fights. He'll fish for a bunch of takedowns as he does win the first round. But after that first round, Dalby is able to work back up to his feet after Silva did take him down. In the second and the third, Nicolas Dalby outstrikes Claudio Silva on his way to a victory, winning it 2-1 by unanimous decision. And further for Dalby, losing to Tim Means by decision. It was a back and forth fight. It wasn't the greatest fight by any stretch of the imagination, but it was the grappling and really what Means was able to wear on against Dalby that did enough for him to win the fight by unanimous decision, 2-1. Dalby beat Daniel Rodriguez in a really weird fight because it's still Rodriguez's only loss, or actually, sorry. I forgot he lost to Neil Magny, but still, it was his only loss going up to the Neil Magny fight. Now, Rodriguez will be fighting Gunnar Nelson in London in a couple months, but Dalby picks up a huge win over Rodriguez in that one, beats him by unanimous decision, looks good. It's just weird. Sometimes Dalby looks really good, and sometimes you get the fight like he had against Jesse Ronson, a guy who has not really produced the best outcomes in the UFC. He's now outside the UFC, just won his last fight over in BTC. But yeah, of course, Ronson, a guy now outside the UFC. Dalby got caught in a rear naked choke in a fight that he was a minus 400 favorite in. So, right, you just don't know the results you're going to get out of Nicolas Dalby. I think he's better than a Warlley Alves, who's coming off that loss to Jeremiah Wells, who we haven't seen in a while. I mean, both these guys feel like they're old. I honestly didn't know Alves was only 32. I thought he was a lot older. I didn't know he was, younger than Colby Covington, actually. Nicolas Dalby's 38. He is getting up there in age, but I just think Dalby's better. I think Nicolas Dalby's game is more equipped to beat Warlley Alves. I think he'll be able to keep the fight standing. As long as Dalby doesn't get knocked out, I think he'll be able to technically strike his way towards victory in this one over Warlley Alves. So give me Nicolas Dalby to win this one by unanimous decision. So the fan favorite, Terrence McKinney, is back. And I'll be honest with you, I really like the line right now in McKinney. Minus 110, I feel, is really good for McKinney going into this fight. Now, Terrence McKinney, 3-1 in the UFC. We can break down all of his fights because they don't go past the first round. His first one being the Matt Frevola fight, where He beats Frevola in 7 seconds, catches him with the left cross, puts Frevola down. Terrence McKinney wins the fight. And then after that, he beats Fereziam, like, a couple months, actually no, it was a good while after, like 6 months later, he submits Fereziam in the first round by rear naked choke. Then he comes back 2 weeks later, loses to Drew Dober in one of the best rounds of fighting you are going to see. Now, I'll be honest with you, I picked that fight right. I picked Dober, and then even though I'm really high on McKinney, and then after that, let's be honest with ourselves. They gave Terrence McKinney it was a layup fight against Eric Gonzalez. You knew what was happening in that Eric Gonzalez fight. McKinney closes like a minus 950 favorite. He wins by rear naked choke in the first round. I don't know why they did that to Eric Gonzalez, because Gonzalez is a guy who's coming off a loss to Jim Miller. He'll be fighting Darius Flowers in his next fight in a fight night coming up on the Krylov Span card. So you're going to see Eric Gonzalez, but that's the card that's most notable now for Tatiana Suarez coming back against Montana De La Rosa. Anyways, Terrence McKinney's 3-1 in the UFC. He's going to be taking on Ismael Bonfim in this one. And for Bonfim, coming off the Contender Series, big win his last one by unanimous decision. Really mixed up his striking a lot, scored a huge knockdown in the first round. Bonfim's good. He's going to go in there. He's going to throw. And he's got some jiu-jitsu as well. Same about Terrence McKinney. McKinney, of course, can really get it done on the ground as well. He's got I wouldn't really say underrated at this point in grappling game. He's just good on the ground, very, very solid down there. Same can be said about Bonfim, and on the feet, both of these guys are going to throw. I would say I do like the striking. I think grappling-wise, I think this fight is pretty even, but striking-wise, I really do like Terrence McKinney. I think McKinney's got more power. I think he's got more pop on his shots, and I think McKinney can definitely outstrike and be a quicker striker than Ismael Bonfim in this fight. I do like the striking again, a lot out of McKinney here. He's not scored a knockout since his first win in the UFC, his first fight in the UFC back in 2021, but again, McKinney, a lot of people are high on this guy. Bonfim this is his first fight coming into the promotion, even though he does have a lot of good wins. He's fought before in a main event in LFA. He's a good fighter, don't get me wrong. Ismael Bonfim is a really good lightweight fighter who I think is a very tough fight for Terrence McKinney, but let's not get this twisted. It's a tough fight for Ismael Bonfim as well. Bonfim, he's 27 years old. He's been fighting for a while. He's been fighting since 2011. He's has a fight against Renato Moicano back in the day in Jungle Fight in 2014 for the featherweight championship over there that, of course, Moicano did win, but it's a very good opportunity for Bonfim. It's a guy that a lot of people are a fan of in Terrence McKinney. A lot of people are high on Terrence McKinney, but I think McKinney's quicker. I think he's just got more power on the feet. So as long as this fight stays standing, which I do anticipate it to do, I don't think this one does really hit the mat. I think you're going to see a striking fight. Someone's going to get knocked out. It's one of the fights where I feel most confident in a lightweight getting knocked out. It's a division that does have a lot of power, but especially in this fight between Bonfim and McKinney, it's killed or be killed in there on Saturday night in Brazil. And give me Terrence McKinney to go on the road and beat Ismael Bonfim in his home turf. Give me Terrence McKinney to go on the road and win this fight by first round knockout. Should be a banger for as long as it does last, because Terrence McKinney does not have bad fights. But give me T-Rex Terrence McKinney to win this one by first round knockout. Big spot in the UFC debut for Luan Lacerda. He'll be taking on Cody Stamann in this fight. And I find the Tapology picks really interesting in this fight, especially when we consider the odds as well. The odds right now for this fight, you've got Cody Stamann right now. This is, again, I'm recording this pretty early. I'm recording this on Friday night. I'm going to be taking off, so I'm not going to be, around. Or I'm not going to be able to record videos over the weekend, so I'm recording this early on Friday. But as of Friday night at like 10:30, you got Cody Stamann coming in as a minus 320 favorite, and you got Luis Lacerda coming in at plus 265. And you look at the Tapology picks for now, Lacerda the favorite on Tapology, 51% for him and 49% for Stamann, which I find really interesting. So you look at Luan Lacerda, this is a guy who's 12-1, coming off a big win in his last fight by rear naked choke over Marcelo Alves, winning that fight by rear naked choke in the second round. Of course, a bantamweight fight. Lacerda's not horrible. He's got really good jiu-jitsu. He's a very technically sound guy on the ground. He's always going to find ways to get submissions. A lot of guillotine chokes and rear naked choke finishes on the record for him. And he's got a win over Raulian Paiva back in 2015. The guy has not lost a fight since 2014. That was his third professional fight, right? Luan Lacerda is very good on the ground, and he's been fighting some really good competition. And so it's, when you look at this fight, we'll see what Luan Lacerda is able to do on the feet, though, because Cody Stamann in his last fight did show, okay, he can go out there and he can get finishes on the feet. I don't know how I didn't see that one coming. I picked Cody Stamann to beat Eddie Wineland. I just picked him to out-wrestle him for 15 minutes and not to get a knockout. Maybe I should have picked that, because really that fight was simple for Cody Stamann. He stormed and he blitzed Eddie Wineland and he put him down. He knew that the 40-year-old chin out of Eddie Wineland, the former WEC champion, could not hold up, and exactly that's what happened. Stamann put him down in under a minute. Cody Stamann's kind of got the rep around in the MMA community for being a boring fighter. Well, he wasn't boring in that fight, but I think in this fight, you could get a boring Cody Stamann performance, I think, because I think Luan Lacerda is not as good in the feet as Stamann. I don't think he is. I really like the grappling end of Lacerda, obviously, really good jiu-jitsu player, but on the feet, I think Stamann is kind of boring, let's be honest, but he's pretty technical up there. He's not going to put himself in too many, terrible spots in the feet. And Luan Lacerda is not going to be the type of guy that's going to go out there, I really think, and knock out Cody Stamann. Lacerda's never got a knockout finish in the feet, or ever. He's never got a TKO or a knockout finish. He doesn't have the best striking, but when he's on the ground, he is very good. Problem is, he's fighting a really powerful wrestler and a strong wrestler in Cody Stamann, a guy who can take you down, will you down, and bring you down multiple points in the fight. He can go out there, he can get not one, but two, but three, but 4 and 5 takedowns in one fight. A guy who does have a pretty good gas tank. And as long as Stamann doesn't get caught in a submission, I think he should win, right? I really only see one pathway to victory for Luan Lacerda. It's if Cody Stamann puts himself in a vulnerable position and he gets submitted. That's really the only way I see Lacerda winning, because any other way I see Stamann winning by decision. I really don't see him winning by knockout, but if he does kind of replicate what he had going in the Eddie Wineland fight, okay, maybe he will catch and he will blitz Lacerda in some points in this fight if he really doesn't think Lacerda is on par with the striking game that he's got. But I think, honestly, the most likely scenario in this fight is Cody Stamann out-wrestling Lacerda. I think we'll see Lacerda throw up a couple submission attempts in this fight, but I think Stamann should be able to get out the way of most of them, or all of them, really. So give me Cody Stamann. I like Stamann to win this fight. Again, Vegas likes him at -320. Tapology and the people who pick over there don't really like him as much, but give me the underdog on Tapology, but the heavy favorite in terms of the odds. Give me Cody Stamann to win this one. I like him to win by unanimous decision. Next up, we've got the UFC debut here of Gabriel Bonfim. He'll be taking on Munir Lazzez. We talked about Lazzez earlier in this video, obviously, with this fight with Warlley Alves, and it's interesting, of course, because Alves hasn't won a fight since, and it felt like Lazzez had a lot of momentum building up into that fight against Alves, and I think it was because of his win over Abdulrazak Alhassan. Now, I don't know if Abdulrazak Alhassan won his fight on Saturday, because of course I'm recording this before the Saturday fight night card with Abdulrazak Alhassan taking on Claudio Ribeiro. I bet against Abdulrazak Alhassan. I bet on Ribeiro. I put actual money on it. I don't usually do that. It's my first, honestly, guys, this is going to be crazy. Big shocker. That is the first MMA bet I've ever made. I'm betting against Abdulrazak Alhassan, and we'll see if it happens, right? I actually picked Abdulrazak Alhassan to not get a finish, because, long story. I live in California. I got to play Underdog Sports. But still, I picked against Abdulrazak Alhassan for my sake and for my money's sake. I hope he lost, and or if he won, I hope he wins his first decision. Anyways, it was a big win for Munir Lazzez, because he comes in there, Abu Dhabi, he's been fighting in the area. Lazzez is a guy who fought in UAE Warriors, he fought in Brave, he's a guy who's local to the area, right? And he comes in and he beats Abdulrazak Alhassan. He's a plus 265 dog, and he goes in there and he beats the living hell out of Abdulrazak Alhassan. It's a good fight, he wins fight of the night too, but he beats Abdulrazak Alhassan. He wins every single round. You're thinking, okay, Lazzez is that guy, he's the superstar that they wanted out that area, and then after that he loses to Warlley Alves. He gets folded by a body kick in the first round. Alves works the body for, the 2 minutes in that fight. He wins, and then Lazzez, though, turns it around, he beats Angelosa. It's a fight that, okay, I thought Lazzez was probably going to win, but I wasn't confident in it. He was supposed to fight Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Fight didn't happen. He was supposed to fight Nicholas Stoltze. Fight never happened. He eventually gets Losa, and he beats him. And he beats Angelosa by unanimous decision. He outstrikes him 141 to 88, and it's not like Losa's all that bad, even though, he beat AJ Fletcher, and I don't think Fletcher's all that great, if I'm being honest with you. But, hell, Losa's a guy now who does have a UFC win, and Lazzez beats him. And he showed the striking. Okay, Losa, Lazzez went there and beat Losa. Now, he'll be taking on Gabriel Bonfim in this one. And for Bonfim, of course, coming in from the Contender Series, picked up a Von Flue choke finish over Trey Waters in the Contender Series to earn his contract. And for Bonfim, the best pathway to victory for him will be through the takedowns in this fight and trying to get this fight on the ground. It's going to come down to that. And Lazzez has only been taken down twice so far in the UFC. Razak Alhassan took him down back in July 2020, and then Alves took him down in January 2021. Given the guy's only had 3 fights, but it is going to be super important in this fight if Bonfim can take him down. Because, I feel like, it's just kind of a thing with Brazilian MMA, right? A lot of these guys are dependent on the takedown, dependent on their jiu-jitsu, and I feel like Bonfim's not solely dependent on that because he can get it done through the striking, but I would take Lazzez in a straight-up striking fight between the two. It's going to just be basically based on if Bonfim can take down Munir Lazzez, or can he drag him down? Because if he can, okay, I like Bonfim to go out there and get a submission. If not, I wouldn't be too against the idea, and I definitely entertain the idea of Munir Lazzez winning this one by decision, because I think striking-wise, Lazzez is a lot better than Bonfim. With all that being said, I'm taking Gabriel Bonfim, though. I think he is able to get that takedown against Lazzez, and I think he is able to get him down to the ground. I think we have not seen Munir Lazzez yet on the ground in the UFC. He's yet to be tested down there, and especially against an elite guy, grappling-wise, in Gabriel Bonfim. The guy is 25 years old. He's very young in his career. He looks like a promising welterweight prospect here. I'm going to take Gabriel Bonfim to win this fight, his first UFC fight. I'm going to take him by second-round submission. I think the first round would be kind of a feeling-out process. Maybe Lazzez does take it, but in the second, Bonfim secures that takedown. He takes the back, and he submits Munir Lazzez. Give me Gabriel Bonfim to win this one by second-round submission. And in this, I feel like is a lot of people's lock of the night. I mean, it basically is. I just think Josiane Nunes is... I don't see a world where Josiane Nunes loses to Zara Farron, and let's be honest, I really don't see a world where Jaitan Almeida loses to Shamil Abdurakhimov. They are throwing Abdurakhimov right into the wolves here. I mean, this is a guy who's 41 years old. They said, all right, go fight a guy in Jaitan Almeida who's 10 years younger than you, looks like an absolute beast. He has not been in any trouble so far in his UFC career. He has taken guys down immediately, and he has drowned them down there, and he has submitted them right away. And, oh yeah, go fight this guy. Like, they're doing the 41-year-old Abdurakhimov no justice here. I mean, likely in what I think will be his last fight. He's 41 years old on a 3-fight losing streak, given against 3 really good guys. I mean, Curtis Blades, tremendous fighter. Chris Daukaus has seen a lot of, non-success in the past. He's lost his last 3 fights, but still Daukaus is good. And Sergey Pavlovich looks like he's a fight away from the championship. And of course, those are Abdurakhimov's last 3 fights. Lost by ground and pound in the second round to Curtis Blades back in 2019. Chris Daukaus, knockout in the second round, and then Sergey Pavlovich knockout in the first round. I mean, the last win Abdurakhimov does have is back in 2019 over Marcin Tybura, right? It's been a while for Abdurakhimov. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a prime Shamil Abdurakhimov as well, because the guy in Abdurakhimov who comes to the UFC in 2015 kind of took him a while to get his footing, let's be honest with ourselves. And we thought he had that after that 3-fight winning streak against Tybura, or that finishes with the Tybura win. He beats Andrei Arlovsky in that winning streak too, but then he hasn't won a fight since. And Abdurakhimov has looked slow, he's been beat to the punch, and there's been obvious power discrepancies in his last couple of fights as well. And now he's going to take on Jaitan Almeida. It's a guy that, okay, Abdurakhimov does not have to worry about striking-wise, because Almeida does not do that. He will barely throw strikes in the feet. He's just not that type of fighter. Almeida is a pure grappler and a pure wrestler, pure jiu-jitsu player, really, and he's a very strong guy who's going to, force you down to the ground. So Abdurakhimov doesn't have to worry about the striking side of things. He's going to have to worry about Almeida taking him down immediately and smishing him, brother, because it's going to happen. Jaitan Almeida is going to take down Shamil Abdurakhimov, and it is going to be a night over for Abdurakhimov. Like, 41 years old Shamil Abdurakhimov, 31 years old Shamil Abdurakhimov, he does not stand a chance in this fight. Jaitan Almeida is a man on a mission right now. He is possessing some of the best jiu-jitsu that we have seen, honestly, out of the bigger weight classes. I'm talking about 265, and, Almeida has had some catch weights recently. The 220 fight against Anton Turkulaj in his last fight. He fought at 265 against Parker Porter, and then he fought at 205 against Danilo Marquez. So it's been 3 technically different weight classes for Almeida in his first 3 fights. He'll finally settle in the heavyweight division in this one against Almeida. Or not against Almeida, sorry, he is Almeida against Abdurakhimov. I am getting kind of tired right now, but don't worry, I got this. Jaitan Almeida is going to win this fight. I really think it's going to be a takedown pretty early. I think he's going to force Abdurakhimov to give him his back, and Jaitan Almeida is going to submit him. He is going to take his back, and he's going to choke him out. So, give me Jaitan Almeida to win this one by first round submission. Again, the guy's 3-0 in the UFC, and there is an obvious reason he is a minus 900 favorite in this fight. Jaitan Almeida sees no problems against the veteran, the 41-year-old Shamil Abdurakhimov. Almeida is able to take him down instantly. I don't even want to picture a world where he's not able to get the takedown, because he'll probably lose, but that's not going to happen. Jaitan Almeida is going to find that takedown. I don't have a single doubt in my mind that he's not going to get it. Give me Jaitan Almeida to win this one by first round submission. It's going to be a blowout. So I'll be honest with you, I was really looking forward to Thiago Moises taking on Guram Kutateladze. That was supposed to happen on this card. Unfortunately for everyone involved, Kutateladze got injured. He's not able to fight this fight. Now Moises gets a really worthy opponent, though, and a really worthy replacement here, and Malcazel Costa in this fight. And for Costa, won his last 2 fights after where I saw him first really was on that LFA main event, LFA 132, loses by unanimous decision. So the fight that I thought Costa was going to win, he didn't do it. But since then, he has came back and he's won back-to-back fights by knockout. Given his first fight after the main event spot where he loses to Gomez, he beats Tom Santos, a fighter who is 12-11. He knocks him out in the first round, and then after that, he comes back to another LFA main event. He knocks out Junior Mello in the 3rd round by TKO or by knockout. But now Costa is here and he's getting in the UFC, and I feel like It is a little bit early, I think. I think it is kind of early for Costa. He is 26, but I think he's one of these guys I feel like could benefit a little bit from a little bit more run in LFA or just some of the regionals in Brazil. But they are doing him no favors in this fight because they're giving him Thiago Moises. And I know Moises lost back-to-back fights, but look at the guys he's losing to. Islam Makhachev and Joel Alvarez. Those two guys are really good. And now, and obviously Moises just came off a win. He submits Christos Giagos in the first round. And now he gets Melquizael Costa, a guy who has not fought yet in the UFC, obviously. It's his UFC debut. And he's not bad. I do like Costa's striking. I like his power. But I think Moises is able to get him down to the ground. Yes, Costa has shown, all right, he is decent on the ground. He does have some experience grappling. Obviously, he does. But he does, he's not lost on the ground, obviously, and he won't be against Thiago Moises. But pure wrestling-wise and, jiu-jitsu and everything considered, I think Moises is just better down there. Striking-wise, okay, Costa's going to have a chance to knock him out. He's going to have a puncher's chance. But still, Moises knows how to find his way out of danger on the feet. He's been in a lot of these fights before. Hell, his fighting against Alexander Hernandez was basically a striking fight, and he beats Alexander Hernandez like that. Right? Moises is able to get out of danger on the feet. He's able to technically outstrike his opponents, and especially against power guys as well, guys who are looking just for that one-shot knockout power, or just for that one-shot knockout punch. Moises, again, I think he's going to be able to take this fight down. But even if you're looking at the worst-case scenario for Thiago Moises here, and he's forced to strike with Melt Costa in this fight, I think he can still win. So give me Thiago Moises. I feel like it's a tough fight for Costa coming in this fight on short notice. Moises has been preparing for Guram Kutateladze. It's going to be an interesting shift, but I wouldn't be scared of the grappling on a Costa if you're picking Moises at all. I think it's just, really just dependent if Moises can stay off the way of getting hit by a big shot, which I really do feel confident in him doing so. So I think Moises is able to land that takedown early. I think Moises is able to go to the well a couple times in this fight. And I think he'll get a first round submission. I think he's just going to show why there are levels in this game in terms of jiu-jitsu, and Moises is going to prove that here. Moises is going to prove that here tonight against Costa. Again, a guy who I feel like could benefit for a little bit more run in the regional promotions. So I'm going to take Thiago Moises to win this one. I think he'll win it pretty convincingly. Give me Moises to win this fight by first round submission. Let's go, man. Just announced, and it's an absolute banger. Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez taking on Bruno Ferreira. With all due respect to the Brad Tavares fight, I think that was going to be an excellent fight. I was excited to see Rodriguez take that step up against a guy in Tavares who's been around the block for a while. But this fight, put away the rankings, put away, Rodriguez being a potential contender in this weight class. Just think about it for pure fun and violence and chaos. This is an amazing fight. Someone is getting knocked out, likely in the first round. I am excited. Bruno Ferreira's nickname is the Hulk. And this guy comes in the Contender Series. He wins his fight over Leon Alou. He wins by knockout in the first round in 95 seconds. This guy has got a lot of knockouts, 6 knockouts to his name. His last 4 fights have all been knockout finishes, 3 of them in the first round. Ferreira throws with dangerous intentions. He is going to try to put you out, and he's going to try to knock you out. And now we get him and Gregory Rodriguez here on not the featured prelim, because that will be, of course, the retirement fight for Shogun Rua, but Rodriguez and Ferreira here is an excellent showcase fight. And you look at Gregory Rodriguez, the only loss in the UFC being the Arman Petrosyan fight. And it's a fight that you can argue maybe Rodriguez wins. You definitely can argue that he wins the fight. It's a split decision. They barely give it to Petrosyan. Petrosyan, let's be honest, has not seen any of that success since. I know he beat AJ Dobson in his last fight, but the loss to Borja was very disappointing for me. But anyways, for Rodriguez, he comes in the promotion off that LFA victory, LFA 108 against Josh Fremd. He beats him by knockout in the first round to claim the LFA middleweight championship. Then he comes in the UFC. He beats Dusko Todorovic by unanimous decision. He beats Jun Young Park, the Iron Turtle, by standing knockout finish in the second round. Loses to Petrosyan, slight hiccup. Has that crazy fight against Julian Marquez where he drops him 3 times in the span of 3 minutes. And then he's got one of the craziest comebacks you were ever going to see. We thought he was dead to rights against Chidi Njokuani. He comes back and he knocks out Njokuani in the second round. Now, I would be a little bit concerned about Rodriguez, or he finishes Njokuani by ground and pound in the second round. We'd be a little bit concerned about Rodriguez because he is coming back just in 4 months. He did take a lot of damage in the Njokuani fight, and that's why I am slightly considering a Bruno Ferreira victory in this one. I think that's why I haven't seen the odds just yet, again, because this fight was just announced yesterday, but that's why I think some people are leaning slightly for Ferreira. It's just that, hey, if he can crack this RoboCop chin, which is hard to do, but if he can, he's got the power to do so. If anyone's going to do it, and especially anyone on short notice, it's going to be a guy who's got the power like Bruno Ferreira possesses. I mean, you watch this guy's fight in the Contender Series. This guy throws hard and he throws. He is trying to put you out with every single shot he's going to throw. And given if Rodriguez can kind of just, stretch him out deep late in the fight in the second and the third, it should, Ferreira should be dead to rights for Rodriguez. But just in the nature of it being in Brazil and the way that RoboCop does fight, I would anticipate Rodriguez to throw with Ferreira in that first round. And I think someone's getting knocked out. And I think it's going to be a violent fight, and I am so excited for it. I'm taking RoboCop, though. I know it's only 4 months after the Njokuani fight, but he didn't take, in all fairness, that much damage to the point where I'm too concerned about his chin, and Rodriguez has yet to show any, questionable signs with his chin. I think he's a better striker than Ferreira. I think he's, I think he'll be able to get out the way of the big power shots Ferreira will throw and the big crazy stuff Ferreira will throw. And I think Rodriguez will win. I think it's going to be a crazy fight. It might be one of the best fights of the night, but I can guarantee you one thing. This one is not going the distance. Give me RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez to win this fight in Brazil. Give it to him by first round knockout over the UFC newcomer in Bruno Ferreira. Okay, so the final fight in the career of the legend Mauricio Shogun Rua, and he'll be taking on Ihor Potieria in this fight. And, with all due respect to Ihor, the UFC should have signed Lyoto Machida for one fight. They should have done it. They should have done the trilogy fight between Machida and Rua for this one. I believe Lyoto Machida is a free agent, right? I think he is. I'm not mistaken. They should have done that because, it would have made sense. Both of them can retire in Brazil. But instead, now, we get this. Because, Machida's got knocked out by Fabian Edwards in his last fight. Did I maybe take Lyoto Machida to win that fight? Maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe I took him to win that fight. But anyways, I feel like this should have been Rua versus Machida, but it's fine. You give him here against Rua versus Ihor Potieria. And for Potieria, his last fight, lose to Nikolai Negumereanu. It's a fight that, it's Ihor's only fight so far, by the way, in the UFC, but it's a fight that he does get grounded in the first round. Negumereanu takes him down and holds him down. It's weird. It's in Dallas. It's the first fight of the card, UFC 277. And the second round, Potieria kind of just empties the gas a little bit. He kind of just goes for it against Negumereanu, and he does have some success. He, kind of blitzes Nikolai. He kind of just goes for it. He doesn't win, obviously, because Negumereanu gets him in the clinch, and he just keeps unloading knees to the dome of Potieria, and he wins the fight. But now you give a guy in his second fight in the UFC the retirement fight for Mauricio Shogun Rua. And for Shogun, he hasn't won a fight since 2020, and it was against Lil Nog, who, Lil Nog in 2020, he's just, what do you expect? He beats him by split decision. It was two grandfathers fighting. It was bad, but Shogun, they book him against Paul Craig. It's a fight that he did have earlier, and he did, it was a draw, even though it's ridiculous. Paul Craig should have won that fight on the Blachowicz-Jacare card. Blachowicz-Jacare. The only, I will always remember this, and I'll remember this especially right now because I'm very tired as I'm recording this video. Blachowicz-Jacare, the only UFC main event I have fallen asleep during in my entire life. I don't want to rewatch it. I refuse to watch that fight. Anyways, I just remember the second round and I was bored. Anyways, Shogun has the fight against OSP, and this is where I decided I don't want to watch Shogun Rua fight anymore. And it wasn't because the fight was bad, but it's not because of that. It was because Shogun loses. I thought he lost. I thought OSP beat him, okay? Even though I thought Shogun did a lot better than he was going to in that fight. He kind of does hold up with St. Preux a little bit in that fight. I thought he was going to get knocked down in the first round, but he does kind of contend a little bit with OSP. It's a split decision. One judge did score for Shogun, but this is how I will remember this fight for the rest of the time. They're announcing the scorecards. Good old Mark Goddard's got Rua and OSP, ready to raise the winner's arm, okay? Buffer announces 29-28 St. Preux, 29-28 Rua, and 30-27 for your winner by split decision, Ovince St. Preux. And Shogun raises his hand when they say Ovince. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Mauricio doesn't sound like Ovince. Shogun doesn't sound like Ovince. What did Shogun think? And this isn't me, shitting on Shogun Rua. It's just that I don't think he should be fighting anymore. I think he was messed up in that fight, and he didn't take much damage because OSP was just kind of hesitant on throwing. So that's when I decided I didn't want to watch Shogun fight anymore. I laughed. It was funny for me because it was like, oh, okay, haha, Shogun thought he won. But now thinking about this, I didn't think he was ever going to fight again. He's fighting again now, and it's not like Ihor Potieria is some killer, and I honestly think Shogun's got a chance to win this fight. Believe it or not, I think he's got a very good chance to win this fight. If Potieria kind of just empties the gas like he did against Negumereanu, and he gets tired, and he doesn't really have much to do, Shogun can probably just sit on his bike and just if he's got one at this point in his career, and just kind of strike him from the outside and win a decision. If he can win the second and third rounds, maybe Shogun wins the fight that way. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think that's, a possibility that Shogun, okay, maybe can win this fight. But I just don't want to see the guy fight anymore. I don't want to see him get hurt, all right? He's had so many fights. Shogun Rua is a legend in the sport, and that's undeniable. I mean, when I first started watching MMA, Shogun Rua was the light heavyweight champion. When I first started watching MMA, he was coming off the win in the second fight against Lyoto Machida. This is a guy who fought in Pride. Yes, I don't think there are any more fighters who still fight in the UFC that are from Pride, I think. I could be mistaken. I know Overeem, of course, is fighting Glory right now. I think Gegard fought in Pride, if I'm not mistaken, but he's in Bellator. I don't think there are any other fighters who fought in Pride still in the UFC. I could be mistaken. I could be missing one. But Shogun's still doing it. And again, respect to the legend. But again, Fedor is still fighting, obviously, in Bellator as well. He's about to fight for the World Championship in his final fight. But again, respect to the legend, Mauricio Shogun Rua. I don't think this is his fight. I think Ihor is going to find something early. I don't think Rua is going to be able to keep up with the power that Potieria does have. I don't think it's crazy power out of him, but it seems like a spot for Potieria to win. I'm going to take him by first round knockout, unfortunately ending the career of Shogun Rua with a first round knockout. Oh man, I mean, this has so many goofy possibilities on how this fight could go. I mean, this fight could go a lot of different ways. You got Paul Craig, who is, the jiu-jitsu guy. He's going to pull guard. He's going to shoot 15 takedowns like he did against Volkan Oezdemir. Is he not going to land any? Well, he didn't in the Oezdemir fight, and he lost. I mean, you're going to see, it's that guy, Paul Craig, the Bear Jew, who has a win over, by the way, the guy in the main event tonight, in Jamal Hill. He caught him with an armbar and basically broke his arm. And he'll be fighting Johnny Walker, and Johnny Walker's Johnny Walker. I mean, I honestly forgot he beat Ion Cutelaba. I'll be honest with you. I forgot that fight happened. I was at a Stanford football game when that fight happened. But I forgot it happened. Johnny Walker won by submission in the first round bare naked choke. I had to watch that fight today because I forgot that fight even existed. I don't know why I had it in my head that, Walker's coming off a 2-fight losing streak, lost to Santos, lost to Jamal Hill. Oh, I forgot the Ion Cutelaba fight happened. I honestly forgot about it. And I remember I talked about Cutelaba fighting in Zejiku a couple weeks ago too. But anyways, Johnny Walker is coming off the submission win over Cutelaba because how could I forget again? That was the one where he wins the fight and they just send him outdoors and he's out there looking for a taxi in his damn ring trunks or whatever. And he's out there in his UFC fight kit. Anyways, Walker's going to be fighting Paul Craig in this fight. And now, two very distinct fighters in this fight. Paul Craig's not a very good striker. He's just not. He's one of the rare guys now in the UFC that is going to pull guard. He is going to try to get you on the ground in any way possible. He will try the takedowns. He will try to trip you. He will try to pull guard to do anything. He will do anything to get you on the ground. And Johnny Walker's a effing madman. I mean, this guy does the craziest stuff there. Like, in any fight, Johnny Walker does the craziest stuff. I mean, it's just how he is. Johnny Walker is gonna try anything. He's gonna try anything but everything and the kitchen sink in this fight. I mean, that's just how he fights. He throws a bunch of power. He's reckless, but that's what makes him fun. The thing is, Johnny Walker being reckless in this fight is interesting because maybe Paul Craig does take him down, or maybe Paul Craig finds himself somehow at Johnny Walker's back in some point, right? But striking-wise, Johnny Walker is levels ahead of Paul Craig, and grappling-wise, Paul Craig is levels ahead of Johnny Walker, which makes for a very interesting and intriguing matchup here. But I'll tell you how this fight's gonna go. This is how I see it happening, and I think this would be the funniest possible outcome in this entire thing, okay? And this is a very believable one too, let's be honest with ourselves, okay? Johnny Walker knocks down Paul Craig. He knocks him down like in the first 2 minutes of the fight. And this is, by the way, this is reminiscent of what happened in the Paul Craig-Nikita Kirillov fight only, in March, and Kirilov's about to fight in a main event against Ryan Spann in a couple weeks, okay? But this is exactly what happened. I think Walker's going to knock down Craig. He's going to knock him down with a huge punch. He's going to look, Paul Craig's done. Walker is going to make the mistake everyone makes against Paul Craig. He's going to follow him in the guard, and Paul Craig is going to throw up a triangle choke, and he's going to submit him. It's what he did against Antigulov, even though Antigulov didn't knock him down, but still, it's what he did against Nikita Kirillov. He's going to do the same exact thing to Johnny Walker. Walker is, I like the guy. He seems like a great guy. He seems he's a funny guy, and he does some great stuff for our entertainment. But Johnny Walker's fight IQ is not the highest. He is going to do some stupid stuff that is going to result in him knocking down Paul Craig, but he's going to chase him down to the ground, and he's going to be reckless, and Paul Craig will submit him off his back. So Paul Craig wins. He's going to win by submission in the first round. It is going to be an absolutely crazy 3 minutes for how long this fight does last, because it's going to be, is Paul Craig going to take him down, or how long does Johnny Walker have on the feet? I don't think Craig's gonna need a takedown. His way of getting the fight on his way of getting the fight on the ground in this fight is going to be getting knocked down, and he's going to find his way in a submission, and he's gonna submit Johnny Walker off his back. Give me the Bearju Paul Craig to win this fight. He'll do it by first round submission. Okay, Lauren Murphy, Jessica Andrade. Man, oh man. I don't think this fight's competitive. Does anyone think this fight's competitive? Let's be honest with ourselves, guys. Jessica Andrade isn't losing. She's not losing to Lauren Murphy, and I feel like Lauren Murphy, every time she fights, I'm like, oh, no chance she wins. No chance she wins here. Andrade is going to destroy her. Jessica Andrade, she's not going to play around in this fight. Andrade at home, the last time she fought in Brazil, she won the world championship. Jessica Andrade's not losing this fight. Lauren Murphy, 39 years old, she's coming off a win of Miesha Tate, but Miesha Tate is washed up. Let's be honest. Miesha Tate is washed up. I don't think we're going to see Miesha Tate ever again. I think her comeback ended at 1-2 with a win over Marion Reneau, and I don't think she's fighting again. Okay, Lauren Murphy beat Miesha Tate. She's beat Joanne Wood. She beat Lilia Shakirova, and it was a fight that I picked Lilia Shakirova to win. We have not seen Lilia Shakirova since, right? She beat Roxanne Modafferi. She beat Andrea Lee. She beat Mara Romero Barella. Okay, she lost to Valentina for the belt. Jessica Andrade is not going to see any problems in this fight. Lauren Murphy is slow. She can kind of wrestle, but Andrade is so much physically stronger than her, so Andrade will be able to keep it on the feet. And Andrade is going to knock her out in the first round, right? I mean, or a submission like she did against Lemos, right? Like, Andrade is still very good. Andrade is still a very good fighter. And I'm surprised he's not fighting at 115, considering who the champion is right now, or could potentially be, because Zhang Weili is a champion. But if Rose Namajunas wins that championship back in a trilogy fight with Zhang Weili that I anticipate happening next, well, there you go. Andrade is right back into it, right? So you've seen what Andrade has been able to do against some of these other fighters who the UFC has thought are at the highest point of the 125-pound division, who just can't beat Valentina just yet, right? Katlyn Chookagian, okay. Andrade knocks her down or puts her down with a body hook in the first round. Cynthia Calvillo, Andrade finishes her in the first round. And then Amanda Lemos, a fighter that Andrade goes back down to 115 to fight, Andrade finishes her in the first round with a standing arm triangle choke. It is the only finish in a women's main event fight in the last 3 years. And that's not even a joke. That's for real. Andrade is a finisher. She will go out there and finish fights. Look how she won the championship. She beat Rose Namajunas. She slammed her on her head. Look how she got the championship fight. She beat Karolina Kowalkiewicz by knocking her out in the first round, right? I mean, Andrade is a powerful fighter. She's a fighter who is going to go out there and get finishes. She is going to swing big, but stay calculated at the same time. Lauren Murphy is not going to find a way to make her pay. I don't see a world where it's going to be able to happen. Lauren Murphy's power is not going to concern Jessica Andrade. Her volume is not going to concern Jessica Andrade. Her wrestling will not concern Jessica Andrade. All day, every day of the week, even on Sundays and Saturdays. I don't know why I threw that in there, but Jessica Andrade is going to beat Lauren Murphy. You can put your house on it, all right? I mean, this fight, Jailton Almeida beating Shamila Durakhimov, and Josiane Nunes winning her fight against Zara Farron, all those fights feel like locks. Jessica Andrade there is no chance Andrade loses to Lauren Murphy. If she does, I will come on here and I don't know. I'll do something. I don't know what I'll do. I'll go buy a Lauren Murphy t-shirt and give it to one of you. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay? I don't know if those exist, so maybe that giveaway is not possible. It's not going to happen. Jessica Andrade is going to win. This fight is not close. Andrade has got so much more power, and there's nothing that Lauren Murphy can throw that's going to hurt her. Jessica Andrade's first round knockout, too easy. Okay, big spot here for Gilbert Durinho Burns taking on Neil Magny. For Neil Magny, I would say a huge victory for him. I mean, the Daniel Rodriguez win's huge. Rodriguez is coming off a bunch of momentum. I mean, no one really thought he won the fight against the Leech Li Jingliang, but he wins it. They give him the scorecards in that fight, and they booked D-Rod against Neil Magny. Magny submits him with a Jar's choke in the third round. Huge victory for Neil Magny. Now he gets Gilbert Burns. It's a huge step up, though. Like, Durinho Burns is good. Now, he has given Khamzat Chimaev by far his toughest challenge to date. It's a fight that, yeah, Chimaev does win. I think Chimaev wins 3-1 in that fight. Burns wins the second round. So 2-1 for Chimaev in that one. But Gilbert Burns, I was always questionable about his chin. I didn't think that he had the best chin because Usman set him down with the jab, and Wonderboy caught him once and wobbled him, and really Wonderboy didn't hit him all that much, but he did hit him once, and Wonderboy's really not the guy to really put anyone down, and he almost did put down Gilbert Burns. So I'll be honest with you, I've been a critic of Gilbert Burns so far in his career. I don't think I have picked Gilbert Burns just yet. Or no, I've only picked Gilbert Burns once so far here in the channel, and it was this fight against Tyron Woodley back in 2020. But like now, Gilbert Burns, I'm done doubting Gilbert Burns. In a loss, I have finally seen the light. I mean, I've always known Gilbert Burns is a good fighter. Don't get me wrong, I know Burns is good, but like I know how good he is now. Like he's got really good striking. He's a very powerful guy, and I'm not doubting the chin anymore over Gilbert Burns. I'm not. It's like how I said I'm done doubting Chandler's chin, even though like I think Chandler's chin's not great, but I think it's decent now. I don't think it's decent, but like I think he's able to stand there and like in big fights like he did against Poirier. But anyways, that's besides the point. I'm done doubting Burns. And now he gets Neil Magny in this fight, where Magny, of course, 20 wins so far in the UFC, but coming off that win over Daniel Rodriguez, he lost to Shavkat Rakhmonov before that. Rakhmonov caught him in a guillotine choke in the second round, and of course, that's what Rakhmonov does to everyone. I think, has Rakhmonov been rescheduling as Jeff Neal? I think he has, right? If I'm not mistaken, maybe? Yes, he has. All right, UFC 285, that fight's going to happen. But Rakhmonov's beat everyone. He's undefeated. He's 16-0. Right, Magny had that close fight against Max Griffin. That's why I was a little tentative about picking him in the Rodriguez fight. That's really why I picked Rodriguez, is because Magny did have a little bit of trouble in that fight against Griffin, who I didn't really know how good Max Griffin really was at that point, right? Burns, though, I think has the clear advantage on the feet. He's got the power advantage. Magny's a guy who's never going to knock anybody on the feet, if we're being honest. He's going to stay on the outside. He's going to use his long reach that he does have, especially at this weight class. But, the striking advantage should go to Gilbert Burns. The grappling advantage, I think, obviously goes to Gilbert Burns as well. You know how good Burns is down there. I would be a little bit concerned, though, because Magny will have a huge reach on Burns. Magny's 6'3", Burns is 5'10". There'll be a 9-inch reach advantage for Neil Magny, which will definitely look weird once it does get inside the octagon. I think that is something that is interesting, because maybe Magny is able to keep distance pretty much throughout this entire fight and hold Burns away from him and just really use his jab effectively to, of course, keep distance away from Gilbert Burns, not allowing Burns to put in any of those big shots, or even allowing Burns to get a takedown to get him on the ground, because you know how good of a jiu-jitsu game Gilbert Burns does have, right? Burns is a true BJJ black belt who is feared on the ground, and even though, yes, Neil Magny scored 5 takedowns on his last fight in his win over Daniel Rodriguez, and he submitted him with the Darce choke, he should fear Gilbert Burns on the ground, and pretty much everyone in the weight class should fear Gilbert Burns on the ground as well. So what is Neil Magny's best pathway to success? I think it is using his jab, and I think it is using that 9-inch reach advantage that he does have. Will he be able to do so? I don't think so. I think Burns will be moving a lot in this fight. I think Burns will be moving up, and I think he will be pressuring Magny, and I think he will be getting in Magny's face. So if he is able to do that, I think Burns is able to work the body, and I think Burns is able to make this fight, and he's going to have to make Neil Magny fight him. I think Burns is going to make this I don't know if he's going to make it a back and forth fight, but he will allow Magny to have the opportunity to get into war with him. It's just, is Magny up for the test? That's my question. And I also think Burns is able to get takedowns. I think Burns is able to drag him down if he has to. And all around, I just really like this fight for Gilbert Burns. Of course, in Brazil, it feels like a fight that he should win. And again, it's a huge step up for Magny. No disrespect against Rodriguez. Well, not Rakhmonov, but like Rodriguez and his win over Jeff Neal and Max Griffin. Those are good guys, but Gilbert Burns is truly elite in this weight class. His striking is better than Magny. I really like the 1s and 2s that Burns can throw. I think it's going to, really, if he can close distance and close gaps, he's going to put some damage on to his opponent. And, of course, Neil Magny in this fight. So give me Gilbert Burns, give me Durinho to win this fight. I think we're going to get done by decision. Honestly, I think we'll win every single round. I mean, I don't think it's going to be too competitive, so give me every single round 1 to Durinho. Gilbert Burns winning this one by unanimous decision. Only championship fights from here on out, and it starts right here with the flyweight championship fight, the 4th fight between Deuce DeGetta, Deiveson Figueiredo, and the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno. Okay. I feel like, and whenever I do this with like trilogies, and I guess for the first time ever a 4th fight, I only talk about especially the fights that these two guys have had against each other, or I think in this case, the fights since their first fight. Because obviously Moreno had that fight, the interim championship fight, his last fight in Dallas, the win over Kai Kara-France. So we will start with Moreno Figueiredo 1. We'll take you back to December 2020. All right, UFC 256. So it's a fight that both these guys take on a month's notice. They needed a main event for that pay-per-view card because UFC 255, Figueiredo submits Alex Perez by a guillotine choke in the first round, and Brandon Moreno beats Brandon Royval. Royval, he's got a shoulder injury, so Moreno just kind of picks the bones and beats him by ground and pound in the first round. So they both get finishes early in the first round. They book him for the pay-per-view the month after. 3 weeks later, UFC 256, it's a majority decision draw. Now, Deiveson Figueiredo would have won the fight if it wasn't for, I believe it was a groin shot, I think, to Brandon Moreno. I think it was in the 4th round. Figueiredo was on his way to win, but of course that groin shot made it a majority decision, made it a draw. You got a 46-48 in favor of Figueiredo and a 47-47 and a 47-47 from Camijo and D'Amato to make it a draw in that fight. Now again, I scored for Figueiredo, but with the point deduction, it is fair. I think it is a draw. Now, the second fight between the two, you go to UFC 263 in Glendale, Arizona. Adesanya Vettori 2, Brandon Moreno wins the championship. One of the biggest, I wouldn't say upsets, but one of the best feel-good stories, right? Everyone's cheering for Moreno. It's somewhat close to Mexico as well. A lot of Mexican fans over there. The first Mexican-born UFC champion. Brandon Moreno wins the fight. He knocks down Figueiredo in the first round. It just really felt in that fight that something was off with Figueiredo. That's how I saw that fight. And rewatching it back still, I think it was just a really bad weight cut for Figueiredo. We know how bad the weight cut is, every fight for Deiveson. He walks at somewhere around 165, and he's obviously got to cut down to 125. It's a guy that I feel like if he does lose the belt against Brandon Moreno, or when he does lose the belt and he wants to continue fighting, I think he will go up to 135 pounds just because I don't think that he wants to continue to make this 125-pound limit. I think that's always something to watch with Figueiredo every time he fights is can he get down to 125? And that's, I think, why it was so incredibly tough for him in the first fight, Moreno, too, because he just made weight 3 weeks before, and he's got to make it again. Right? But anyways, in this fight, I just feel like something was off Figueiredo. He gets knocked down in the first, he doesn't really get going. In the second round, Moreno takes him down. Figueiredo's not able to do much. In the third round, he gets taken down again. He gives up his back pretty easily. Moreno wins the fight. Brandon Moreno wins the championship by rear naked choke. Then you get the third fight. Figueiredo Moreno 3. That was UFC 270 in Anaheim. That's 2022, January of that year. A year ago. Figueiredo Moreno 3. And really, what won that fight for Deiveson Figueiredo, I picked I picked Figueiredo to win by decision. I've picked Figueiredo every single time. I'm gonna, and in this fight, what won Figueiredo the fight was the knockdowns. And I think this is a key thing in this fight was, do you judge the volume of Moreno and, Moreno getting to Figueiredo and landing shots against Figueiredo, or do you take the big power shots that Figueiredo lands and the knockout blows, not knockout blows, the knockdowns that Figueiredo lands against Brandon Moreno? Because I feel like I think this fight's pretty easy to score. When you rewatch it, and the way I would score it, I scored for Deiveson Figueiredo. I score the first round for Figueiredo. He gets the takedown. He outstrikes Moreno in the first. It's a pretty obvious 10-9 for Figueiredo. The second round, Moreno wins. He outstrikes Figueiredo. Fight doesn't hit the mat. Okay, Figueiredo tries 4 takedowns, doesn't get him. And in this fight, Figueiredo was really the one chasing the takedown. He couldn't really get it, but that takedown in the first round is very important because I think that wins him the first, even though Moreno wasn't really too effective with the striking in that first round either. But first round goes to Figueiredo. The second round goes to Brandon Moreno. The third round goes to Deiveson Figueiredo by far. He knocks down Moreno twice, even though he does get outstriked by Moreno, but still he takes down Moreno, he takes down Moreno once, and he knocks down Moreno twice in that third round. Okay, give him the third. The fourth round, give it to Brandon Moreno. He outstrikes Deiveson Figueiredo. And the fifth round, give me Deiveson Figueiredo. The knockdown over Brandon Moreno is huge. That's what wins him the fight, I think. Right? I mean, that's how that goes. I think Figueiredo wins. A lot of people thought Moreno won the fight, but man, I thought Deiveson Figueiredo got that one. And now here you go. It's the fourth fight. And okay, I guess we have to consider Moreno Kai Kara-France interim championship fight. They were just gonna do the fourth fight right away, but instead Figueiredo I think was hurt, so they wanted to do an interim title fight between Kai Kara-France and Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno wins the fight. It's a liver kick in the third round. Sits down Kai Kara-France. Just folds him immediately. The first round you can give it to Kai Kara-France. Second round, I kind of give Kai Kara-France too. I see the case for Moreno, but I actually had 2018 for Kai Kara-France going in that third. Moreno's on his way to win the third round before, boom, big body kick. Absolutely sits down of Kai Kara-France. No moss. I mean, it's just a perfectly placed kick. Nothing else you can say about it, right? Moreno wins the fight. No shame on the side of Kai Kara-France. Moreno's the interim champion. And now when you look at this fourth fight, does anything change in this fight that's different from the third fight? That's the question I ask you. There's things that can change the fight. The weight issues from Figueiredo. Can Figueiredo make weight? Can he not just make weight, but can he be healthy at the weight that he does weigh in at? That's something huge, and it's always going to be something huge at a Deuce Tigueira. It just is, because it's a massive weight cut for him. But again, if it is the same, and we don't see something like the second fight, I think Figueiredo should win. I'm interested to see, though, if Brandon Moreno does go back to the wrestling, because that's something he didn't do in the third fight. He didn't. He went for a little bit, but didn't really chase the takedown like he did in the first fight, because the second fight maybe it was just so easy for Moreno to get the takedown. In the third fight, it wasn't, so he went back to the striking, and he thought he could outstrike Figueiredo. He couldn't. I mean, strikes-wise, he outstruck him, but in all, he didn't because Figueiredo was able to land the big power shots and sit down Brandon Moreno. You know Moreno's got a great chin. He probably won't get knocked out by Deuce Daguerre, but it's some points he's just incapable of staying on your feet against Deiveson. So, man, it's a close fight. It's a close fight. Every single fight has been close to pick and to watch. But I've picked Figueiredo 3 times before. I'm going to take him again. I feel like it's always, oh, this is going to be the one where the weight cut gets to Figueiredo. Okay, maybe it was in the second fight. The third fight, it surely wasn't. It was a 3-2 win, I think, for Deiveson Figueiredo. I think it's going to be more of the same. I think Moreno is going to, strikes-wise, outstrike Figueiredo. But with the power and the big shots that Deiveson puts on the assassin baby in Brandon Moreno, Figueiredo is going to win the fight that way. He's going to knock down Brandon Moreno, I think, more than 2 times again. I think he'll put him down, and I think Deiveson Figueiredo is going to retain his championship in the 4th fight. Deuce Daguerre wins at home. It's going to be an incredible fight, but give me Deiveson Figueiredo to win yet again by decision. Deuce Daguerre gets it done in another tough fight. Main event time. My goodness, Glover Teixeira gets another shot at the championship against Jamal Hill in a vacant championship fight. How did we get here? Obviously, it was the main event fight of UFC 282 in Las Vegas. We'll start with Yuri Prochazka. Glover Teixeira was supposed to be the rematch of their fight in Singapore. Yuri Prochazka's shoulder injury puts him out basically for, a year. So Yuri's out the picture. Now Teixeira steps out. It's Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. It's a fight that I think we all thought Ankalaev won. I said it watching the fight. I think Ankalaev won, but I wouldn't be surprised about a draw. And exactly that's what it was. It was a draw. So what does Dana White do on the spot? He makes Teixeira Jamal Hill, which personally I'm happy with. I really like this. I think it is a better main event than Figueiredo Moreno 2 or 4. Even though I think you would like the first 4th fight in UFC history to be a main event, but not against this. I'm really not. And I'm glad a 43-year-old Glover Teixeira gets another chance at the championship. And this is very interesting because everyone counted Glover out his first shot at the belt. I picked him to beat Jan. I feel like a lot of people didn't, but I picked him to beat Blachowicz, and he did. Picked him to beat Thiago Santos as well. I've been high on the Glover Teixeira train for a very long time now. And really, what he's shown in his last fight, in a loss, Glover Teixeira can take a punch. It is going to take a massive shot from Jamal Hill to put out Glover Teixeira. He's not your normal 43-year-old that you can just knock out with one shot, because that's what we thought. We thought going into the Teixeira Prochazka fight, it's okay. First round knockout, first round submission, either Prochazka knocks him out real quick, or Glover takes him down, he submits him. Didn't happen, right? It's a drag out brawl that if it lasted 28 more seconds, Glover Teixeira retains the championship. And that's why there was a need for the rematch. It doesn't happen because Yuri gets hurt, but that's why Glover Teixeira is getting another crack at the championship for good reason. This is an excellent fight. It's an excellent fight with him and Jamal Hill. It's an interesting fight too, because Jamal Hill kind of skips the line here by way of just not losing. Jamal Hill's been winning fights. He has won every single fight he's had since the Paul Craig fight where he breaks his arm. He beats Jimmy Crute after that. He knocks him out. He knocks out Johnny Walker in a main event, and he finishes Thiago Santos by TKO in the 4th round in their fight in August of 22 in a main event on the Ultimate Fighter finale card, right? This is where this fight gets interesting, though. Jamal Hill gets taken down 6 times by Thiago Santos in that one. Don't forget the 3rd round. Dominant wrestling out Thiago Santos. And that's really the only round that he gets out-wrestled, like purely out-wrestled and out-classed in. But Thiago dominates that 3rd round wrestling. What is Glover Teixeira going to do to you? I'm just throwing that out there. If Glover is able to, get Jamal off the single, that's all he needs. I think it's game over. I think it's Glover, takes his back and submits him. Now, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. Jamal Hill's very good striking-wise. He's a very talented striker. He's got a lot of power. He's good up there. He really is. Jamal Hill's good. But I think Glover's able to slug with him. Don't forget how Glover got his way in MMA. He's just kind of switched up his style to preserve his career and to, preserve his career and stay at where he's at. And that's how Glover's remained really good and, risen up the ranks at the end of his career is because he uses jiu-jitsu, and his jiu-jitsu so good. His jiu-jitsu is so good. Oh my goodness, it's getting late. But, he stayed away from the boxing, and he's really just used jiu-jitsu. And the Yuri fight showed that, okay, he can still go to that if he has to. I think as a last resort, he can do that against Jamal Hill. He can trade with Hill. He can still take shots, and he can still punch very hard. He hit Yuri very hard and put Prochazka in a lot of danger and multiple points in that fight. Glover Teixeira is still good striking-wise. And, oh, by the way, he's got the best jiu-jitsu in the weight class. right? And oh, by the way, he's back in Brazil. Now, obviously, he trains in Dansbury, Connecticut, but he's back in Brazil. Jamal Hill is preparing for Anthony Smith. Now he gets Glover instead. Two very different fighters, I would say. And I'm just so excited for it. So excited for Teixeira and Hill. You look at the odds, Glover coming in at plus 105, the underdog, and the favorite, of course, Sweet Dreams Jamal Hill coming at you at minus 125 on the other side. Man, for a prediction though, I'm taking Anu. Obviously, it's got to be Anu. Taking Glover Teixeira again. I'm taking Teixeira to win the championship. I was going to take him to beat Yuri, if I'm being honest with you. I think Teixeira is still really good at 43 years old. And by the way, what could be the funniest thing about all this? Teixeira wins this championship and he vacates it. There's a very good chance that happens. Let's be honest with ourselves, guys. He wins this belt and he just vacates. And then you're looking at probably a Pereira versus Ankalaev title fight, if we're being honest with ourselves. Like, that could be next. Or like Anthony Smith could be fighting for the championship. That's what could happen if Glover wins and vacates, but it's very possible. But also, it's very possible that Glover wins and he waits for Prochazka, and maybe that's his final fight. He wants that rematch against Yuri. I could definitely see that happening. But I'm taking Glover Teixeira to win this fight. I think Jamal Hill can hit him hard, but I think it's going to take a while for Hill to knock him out. But really, Yuri Prochazka, who hits harder than Jamal Hill, who's crazier striking than Jamal Hill, wasn't able to knock out Glover Teixeira in 5 rounds, basically. He had to submit him, which is crazy, but Glover just kind of ran out of gas, given a 43-year-old ran out of gas with 24 and a half minutes into that fight. I mean, understandably, right? But now you get him against Jamal Hill, and it's like, I don't think Hill's able to knock him out in the first round. I think Glover's chin's able to hold up. And I don't know if Jamal, and this is where there's a discrepancy in this fight, I don't know if Jamal Hill's able to hold up on the ground against Glover Teixeira. It only takes Glover one single, and then he's got you on your back, and oh crap, you give up your back, and then Glover Teixeira takes it and submits you with a rear naked choke. Glover's so good with his jiu-jitsu, and if anything, the Prochazka fight makes me feel so much better in his ability to eat a punch and stay in there and trade with the guy like Jamal Hill and remain in the fight that way on the feet. So I'm not scared like he's gonna get knocked out with any big shot that he takes like I was in the Prochazka fight. I'm not scared about that in this fight. I think Teixeira's able to eat a couple. I think he's able to push forward. I think he's able to hit Jamal Hill with some big shots of his own. And give me Glover Teixeira to win the championship. And I think he's going to walk down Jamal Hill, and I think he's going to submit him in the second round. And new. Glover Teixeira becomes a 2-time light heavyweight champion. He wins the championship at 43 years of age. And I think his final fight will likely be in December, I would say, against Yuri Prochazka. Maybe, just maybe, they give him Ankalaev before, but I think the UFC is going to make Ankalaev pick up a win before he fights for the championship next. Time will only tell him that, but give me Glover Teixeira at 43 years old, Dansbury's own, to win the championship by submitting Jamal Hill in the second round. Again, I bring you back to that point. I know it was only one round, and I know it was only that one round of one fight. I mean, I won't mention that Darko Stosic took down Jamal Hill 6 times once back in the past, but still, that one round, round 3, Thiago Santos holds Jamal Hill down for 4 minutes of that third round, takes him down 5 times. If Thiago Santos is able to do that to you, what will Glover Teixeira do? My point exactly. Give me Glover Teixeira, and new light heavyweight champion submits Jamal Hill in the second round. And folks, thank you all for watching our UFC 283 predictions here on the channel. Make sure that subscribe button down below if you did enjoy the video. Make sure you leave a like if you are enjoying the UFC predictions here on the channel as well. We will be back, not next week, a week off for the UFC, and after that we'll be back for Lewis and Spivak. It will be a card that the main card starts at 10 o'clock on the West Coast, because they're trying to get it for all the Asian MMA fans. And also, by the way, we'll be back in 2 weeks for one of the biggest Bellator cards I think ever. It's on CBS, Bader versus Fedor Emelianenko 2. It is the final walk for the last samurai. Fedor Emelianenko, can he go out with a championship? We will see in his fight with Ryan Bader, the rematch from the Forum in Inglewood, California. So be on the lookout for that, folks. In 2 weeks, 2 MMA videos coming out for you on the channel. UFC Fight Night, Spivak versus Lewis, and of course, the last walk for the last Emperor over with Bellator. So folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more, and Mamba forever.